Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Hope you all had a nice and relaxing weekend. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo's virtual meeting featuring guest speaker Keary Sarabia of RFS Behavioral Health. Now I'd like to ask past President Chuck Mann to deliver a reflection, and he has a short video that includes God Bless America in lieu of the pledge this week.
Irving Berlin wrote the first version of God Bless America in 1918. He rewrote the song in 1938 in response to the rise of Adolf Hitler and fascism in Germany. He wrote it as a prayer for peace, and it was performed for the first time by Kate Smith on November 11th of that year. In 1940, Berlin established the God Bless America Fund, which funnels royalties from the song to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of Greater New York councils. And since 2001, the fund has given each council more than $2.5 million. At its heart, God Bless America is a prayer for the well-being of our country, and especially in the politically charged times in which we now live, we pray for guidance from above. In lieu of the video, which we decided not to do, we've got a much better idea. Fellow Rotarians, one of our own, Mr. Wes Grudzian.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
All right. Glad we got that in. Thank you, Wes. That was fantastic.
My pleasure.
As we begin our meeting, I'd like to thank and acknowledge DMC Technology Group as our October weekly meeting sponsor. Thank you, Rotarian Pat Sheehan. Just a couple of quick updates. I'd like to thank everybody who attended the tailgate on Saturday. It was great to see so many Rotarians at the event. We actually had more individuals show up to watch the game than the Toledo Club did. So I was certainly pleased with that. Again, it was great to see so many faces other than just on camera. Also, the bowling league has started. Talk to Tom Romer for more information. And then finally, this Wednesday, October 28th, from 8 till 9:30, we're having a fall social at our downtown Toledo Metro Park Middle Grounds. There'll be Holy Toledo Donuts, I believe, and Kevin Mullen is filling his 419 fire truck full of cider. So that'll be great. Maybe I can just get a quick show of hands for those who might be planning to attend. That's great. Looks like it's going to be a nice event. As we continue our Services Committees tour, I'd like to invite Rob Crane, Water Service Committee Chair, to discuss the great work they're doing in our area.
Okay, well, thank you. couple of things to report on, and I just want to start with a visual of the Lake Erie watershed. I think it's important that we remind ourselves often just what a large watershed we're dealing with, and why that's part of the struggle for water quality is we're draining such a large area of land to the lake. So in 2019, as I think everybody knows, we really had a lot of testing going on. More than 100 testing sites, and we started a new partnership with the Toledo Zoo teams, which was really headed down the right road. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19 situation this year, we were not able to complete any water sampling. But we have kept in communication with our partners, the zoo teams and the others, and we are really hoping to be able to revitalize the testing again next spring after the winter thaw is over. Several of our committee members have been regularly communicating to thought leaders across the Lake Erie Basin. That led to some recent advocacy meetings with congressional and Senate staffers that was hosted by the Ohio Environmental Council. And as a result of those meetings, which were pretty productive, we're expecting that we will have some in-person meetings in DC next spring. So stay tuned for that. We really see this as a committee as our first step in leveraging Rotary's ability to influence discussions and policies that are going to help move the needle on Lake Erie issues. We've also been invited to participate in a Freon collection project that is part of Rotary International and the Environmental Services Rotary Action Group. Janina has been working on this quite a bit, and the objective is to collect old Freon canisters from businesses and individuals. People may even have these in their garage. Freon is a really nasty greenhouse gas, and if we're able to help collect and dispose of these in a more thoughtful manner, we can really mitigate a lot of that gas from getting into the atmosphere. This is a pretty good economic system in that the disposal creates carbon credits that can be sold on the open market, so it helps to offset those costs. If anyone listens to Plant Money or doesn't, they just did a whole episode on these Freon collections, and it's super interesting. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly is that the governor's H2 Ohio program is now on the ground, and we're really seeing a lot of work going on as a result of it. Last year, the state invested $172 million in clean water here in Ohio, with the bulk of that being focused on the Western Lake Erie Basin. And it's divided between 3 different agencies. The Ohio EPA is working on failing septic systems and lead pipe replacement. The Ohio Department of Agriculture is putting a significant amount of money into best management practices for farmers, helping them to do variable rate fertilizer application and create buffers and those sorts of things. And the Ohio Department of Natural Resources is working on restoring wetlands, which are really critical to cleaning our water. I have been working with the Department of Natural Resources quite a bit at Black Swamp Conservancy. We have 4 projects that are under construction right now. This is our one at a site we call the St. Joe Confluence, where we're really able to, what we're doing is we're converting cropland that's frequently flooded and contributing adversely to Lake Erie into wetlands that can actually absorb those nutrients that come off the water. Like I said, this is one of the 4 sites we're working on, and this is a property we bought last year on the St. Joseph's River, which becomes the Maumee in Fort Wayne, Indiana, when it meets the St. Mary's. There were 2 agricultural fields on this property, and you have the east and west branches of the St. Joe coming together on this site. The farmer who we bought it from had put dikes along the river to keep it from flooding over. And what we were able to do is punch through these dikes, and that's going to allow more water to flood the property more frequently. And then these light green areas you see are wetland pools that have been installed, and the dark green is kind of more upland habitat. So with this one project, you know, we're able to convert about 60 acres of really critical area into wetland that'll help abate the Lake Erie issues. This is one of 4 that my organization's working on, and it's one of about 40 that the state is working on right now. And what's really great to see is, you know, these are projects that will be completed in May of next year. And we are already having conversations with Department of Natural Resources to line up the next one. So as soon as we're able to get these done, there's going to be a whole suite of new projects out there trying to improve the water quality in Lake Erie. So that's just a little bit of what our committee's working on. We're also looking at doing some sort of a service day in the field next year on a wetland restoration, and we'll have details of that for you soon. So thank you.
Fantastic, Rob. Thank you for the tour of the Water Services Committee. And I hope this has inspired some of you to join this committee or any other of our service committees for that matter. And now to introduce a new member, I'd like Executive Director Kathy Tate.
Fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure to introduce you today to new member Mike Hosier. Mike and his wife Amy recently moved here from Hagerstown, Maryland, and they live in Holland. And he has been a Rotarian since 2012. They have a blended family of 7 children, ages 17 to 32, and 3 grandchildren, which he talked a little bit about before the meeting started today. The family, if I understand this correctly, live between Baltimore, Maryland, and Northern Virginia, with Amy and Mike here in Ohio and Holland. Mike is Director of Operations Services at the Holland office of Toledo Edison, part of First Energy, where he has built his career over a 29-year period, beginning as a field engineer and working his way up through many operational positions to where he is today. Mike is a graduate of Penn State University and James Madison University with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in business administration. He spends his free time with his family outdoor activities such as hiking and traveling. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in a warm Rotary welcome for Mike Hosier. Mike, thank you for becoming a member of our club.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks. I'm looking forward to participating.
Great.
Welcome, Mike. You have just joined an organization with over 1.2 million members worldwide. We look forward to getting to know you and for your leadership. And now, finally, to introduce today's speaker is Rotarian Jack Zahari.
Good afternoon, everyone. Keary is a native son, a proud inductee into the Woodward High School Hall of Fame, still involved with the school, with a clear passion for helping children. When not working or playing with kids, he likes to escape for his own mental health to the sun, sand, and surf, a beach, somewhere, anywhere. His fiancée has changed his life in a dramatic way. He is no longer anti-pet, now a dog lover. He even goes so far as to buy doggy sweaters for Hercules. Not the name for his childhood German Shepherd growing up, but rather a smaller breed now, way smaller, a mixture Pinscher and Chihuahua. Apparently, Keary got naming rights before the dog was selected. Please welcome to Rotary, Keary.
Thank you, Judge Zahari. You missed your calling. That was a great introduction for the little bit of information I gave you. That was very creative. So I appreciate that introduction, and I want to first of all, again, thank Judge Zahari for initially inviting me to speak to everybody here at the meeting. But also, I would like to thank all of you on the meeting as well for giving your time up to hear me speak. It's highly appreciated, so I do appreciate that. And just to piggyback off of what Judge Zahari was talking about, I always like to just introduce myself and my background. Again, I am Keary Sarabia. I'm the CEO and president and founder of RFS Behavioral Health here in Toledo, Ohio. And what we specialize in is school-based services, youth and adolescent mental health and addiction services. And what we do is we provide in-school support with kids who are having mental health issues during the school day and beyond the school day as well. But, back to my background, as you mentioned, I am a proud North Ender. I was born and raised in the North End to Ruben and Mary Sarabia. So I've been here, all my life, and went off to start at the University of Toledo, then found my way out to California and came back. Coming from an adverse background, or very diverse background, I should say, coming back to North End, when I got back from college, I found my ways into some very poor choices of lifestyles, which led me down the road to addiction and being homeless. And around at the age of 28, I was able to start building the foundation of changing my life to where I'm at today. It was a self-inflicted choices. I always like to tell people that's something that I don't want to make that, we all have obstacles that we have to overcome in our life. And I didn't want to be a victim per se. I wanted to make sure that I was successful and did what I needed to do to make that happen. So beyond and on my road to recovery, I was very fortunate enough to have a lot of people in my life. My father worked at Toledo Edison as a welder, as a welder in the nuclear part of the facility. And my mother received her master's from the University of Toledo, and actually in archaeology, and did a lot of historical background work for St. Pat's Historic Church. I was joking around before it was the cool thing to do. St. Pat's Historic, I remember going to church when I was a kid, and there was only 3 people in the church. So the church has really flourished over the decades. But I was very fortunate enough to have the background of my parents. I was very fortunate enough to be a part of athletics all my life, to where I had coaches and other people and educators involved in my life, laying down that foundation for me. So when I was able to change, I had that foundation. I was also very fortunate enough to have individuals in my life. Scott Salak is one in particular, that he was a close family friend of my oldest brother, Earl. And actually, when I started changing my life, he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, you have a very unique story to tell. And your line, and this line of work is screaming for people with your background, how you can help people." So I ended up getting my chemical dependencies counselor's license, and then obviously got certified in mental health. So at the age of 28, I started working as a overnight CD tech at Compass Services over on Collingwood. And then I ended up working my way to adolescence, working my way through mental health as a case manager, as a program manager, as directors of programs. So I was able to learn every single level of mental health. Actually, I just turned 48 October 3rd. So this is marking my 20th year as a mental health and addiction services field. So it's been 2 decades, two great decades of doing something that I love. And so through that, about 8 years ago, I wanted to have this, I had this vision of, I wanted to create my own agency, and I wanted to put a little different spin on it. So part of that, going through the 20 years of being in the field, I wanted to create an agency that was going to focus on youth and adolescents. And I wanted to create an agency that was going to focus on what we call our innovative approaches to behavioral health, and not have the traditional services. Really being community-based means you're in the field, you're going to the homes, you're in the schools, you're basically meeting the client where they're at. Excuse me, and I'll get more into that in here in a minute. So I created a model, and most of the model was predicated around extracurricular activities. So I tried to create a program that was going to mesh extracurricular activities into mental health and school-based services. The one thing that the huge push for school-based services is that, obviously, when you read the papers and you look at the data, of everything that's going on with our youth today. You know, kids are struggling in school. Some of the barriers that kids have, the simple barriers to transportation, food insecurities, single parent homes. We have all these obstacles that these kids have, all these obstacles that are prohibiting them from being successful in school. Okay. So we want to try to create out how we're going to mesh these things together. We were fortunate enough to do that. So back in 2012, when we launched our agency, it was quite a journey, but when we launched it, we started with 2 schools. And here we are 8 years later. So we are the largest school-based mental health provider, not just in Lucas County or not just in Toledo Public Schools, but we're in 5 counties. Altogether, we serve 84 separate schools, 14 school districts, and I said we serve in 5 different counties. So RFS serves a very diverse population. We have, obviously here in Toledo, we're more of an urban setting where we see a lot of behaviors, addiction, violence in kids, single home parents, trauma. That's where we see out in the rural counties, we're seeing the anxiety, depression, the suicide ideations, a lot more. So it gives us a very, very wide spectrum of how we can best serve our population. So we've been very fortunate in that standpoint. So the one thing that, again, that we try to do is that making sure that kids are graduating, kids are getting involved with extracurricular activities, kids are being able to have access to mental health. So some of the things that we talk about with mental health, again, going back to what I said, was there are so many barriers for our families, especially in an urban setting, that prohibits them from getting into services. So again, with us being community-based, we go to the homes, we're already in the schools, and we're breaking down those barriers to ensure that kids and families can get the services that they need. Because again, the transportation is a huge issue with families. The simple things of, assuming that people can take a bus. When you're a single parent and you got 3 or 4 kids, that's difficult to pack kids up and to take a bus to come to an appointment. So our motto here and our mission has always been to be a pioneer of innovative approaches to behavioral health. So anything that we can continue to do to break down those barriers to get clients engaged, it's been our motto since day one. So just in a little bit of time that we have, been with RFS, we started with 4 employees, and here we are 8 years later. We have 160 employees. So it's really been a fantastic ride, but at the same token, it's been a really eye-opener because of the needs of mental health services. Now, school-based mental health services have really became in play around 8 years ago. Even at the federal and the state level, is that they're all pushing school-based services because schools are the most logistic and the most opportune place for services to be available. The kids are in schools. Schools are always located within 1 to 2 miles of the homes. So they're always on bus routes, except when we get into the rural counties, it's a little more difficult. But they're on bus routes, so it's easier to engage clients through a school setting. So that's the one thing that has been huge, and then more importantly, that we're on site. So when kids are having meltdowns, when kids are having crisis situations, we're able to provide a real-time intervention, work in conjunction with the educators and the school counselors to be able to properly intervene and get that kid de-escalated, reinforce rules, and get the kid back in the classroom. From an educational standpoint, Toledo Public Schools made a concerted effort, I would say probably about 4 or 5 years ago, as prior to them bringing a lot of community partners into the schools. I don't want to say the normal theme was, but a lot of kids that when they had behavior issues related to mental health issues, they were removing the kid from school and sending them home. Obviously, they realized over time that that's not conducive for the kid's mental health. It's not conducive for his educational learning, and it's not conducive for the school district. And that's where they really started focusing on bringing mental health partners into the school district. So we service 31 TPS schools here. And I can tell you it's been a very, very great partnership. We work in conjunction, again, with the administrators, with the school counselors and the teachers. It provides real-time intervention, real-time care coordination. So when I talk about care coordination, we're able to, since we work with the kids outside of the school day, we're able to provide real-time feedback to the teachers, to the school counselors and the principals about the home life, the home situation, if there's domestic violence, if there's trauma going on in the home, if that student is raising his siblings, and the list goes on and on. And then what we're able to do is that we'll really be able to come together and figure out a treatment plan or educational plan of how we're going to make this kid successful with the environment that he's working within. So that's, you know, a lot of what we do. And then obviously our urban our suburban population, it's a little more, I don't want to say difficult, but believe it or not, is our suburban population. So we service every single school in Defiance County, and every single school district in Defiance County, we service Swanton, Delta, Fayette. Now, the problem that we have with those schools, and I shouldn't say problem, but what has really been an eye-opener for us serving that suburban population was the amount of poverty that these school districts have. So now when they reached out to us and asked for our services, I was kind of thinking like, well, what kind of issues can they have? Because we're so used to the problems that we have here with the outright behaviors and all the stuff that comes along with our urban school districts. But the one thing that we realized out there with the suburban population is that the poverty is actually worse out there. The amount of kids living with grandparents, 6 to 7 people living in a 2-bedroom trailer was an eye opener. And simply for the fact is when you look at it from a criminal justice standpoint, when you look at it from an urban to a suburban, probation violations, urine screens, dirty urine screens while you're on probation here in Toledo, that might get you locked up, but majority of the time, it's probably not going to. They're going to find an alternative treatment or maybe extend probation or make things harder. In the rural areas, they're actually sending you straight to prison. And what we have a lot is we have a lot of kids whose parents are incarcerated due to, dirty drug screens, probation violations, drug charges. So we have a lot of grandparents raising kids out there and lack of resources. It's amazing because everything out there is a 30 to 45-minute drive. And going back to what I said is that the things that we take for granted on a daily basis is like, again, transportation, food, shelter, heat, gas, water. These are the things that these kids don't necessarily have. And we're able to try to find resources and coordination to make sure these kids have this at home. And the biggest thing is that what these kids are going through at home is directly affecting what is going on in the school and their behaviors. And I think from a educational world to a mental health world, we're able to merge that and be able to provide best practices to serve this population and get kids graduated, get them promoted, get them in extracurricular activities, get them involved with schools. So they're having these issues brought up. I just want to read to you guys some statistics that, for what we have realized over the working with the schools and some of the things that have really been eye openers for us as we continue to move forward and hopefully shine some light on what we do. With the school district enrollment of 23,964, 68.55% graduation rate for economically disadvantaged for the 27-2018 school year, is evident that services assistance for future success is limited. Although graduation and enrollment rates have increased in the last 3 years, there appears to be a significant need in school-based and transitional youth services. Many students within the school district derive from a diverse cultural background, such as African American and Latino populations. High rates of unemployment, poverty, generational behaviors, environmental issues impede children from being successful in school. And I can just tell you the biggest, I don't say the biggest issue, but one of the issues that usually stand out is the environmental and the generational environments that these kids come from. Obviously they're coming from broken homes, single parent homes. They have family members incarcerated. One of the parents are incarcerated. This is something that is just a vicious cycle and it just goes over and over. And the hard part is how do we find ways to break that? 20.9% of children and adolescents aged 9 to 17 have mental or addictive disorders. 79% of children ages 6 to 17 with mental disorders and 88% of Latino children do not receive needed mental health care. That was another reason for the push for school-based services, is because hopefully that we can identify kids at an early age who may need mental health services and get them into services and have a proactive approach instead of having a reactive approach. And that's another huge issue about school-based services. So we work together with the schools to do an assessment of needs to identify kids who may have mental health issues. When you look at that percentage, 79% of kids may have mental health issues that are not getting attended to. So that's huge for school-based services. Children do not learn at their optimum when experiencing mental illness or when overwhelmed by life stressors. That's one of the biggest things that we deal with today, is that, again, the trauma, the generational, the environmental issues that are impeding the kid on the outside of the school day is truly affecting him in the school day. And until we can take care of beyond the school day, it's very difficult for the educators in the school to do their jobs during the day. The Surgeon General's report estimated that up to 20% of youth experience mental health problems in any given year, and approximately 75 to 80% of youth in need do not receive adequate care. Emotional disability is one of the fastest growing designations in our schools. Now, just to speak to that for a minute, when we talk about emotional disability, we're talking about the special education population. That is absolutely true. We have more kids who are getting IEPs and learning disabilities due to behaviors and other issues that related to trauma outside the home, poverty, the things that we have recently discussed about. And it's coming at a high rate. And what that does, not only for mental health, but also for the schools, it puts a higher rate on hiring specific trained people, special education teachers with specific license. So it creates a barrier for schools and everyone alike trying to work with these kids who continue to, the ladder goes up. Suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people. School-based mental health increases immediate access to services. Decreased barriers such as drive time, making appointments, provides real-time intervention, which I alluded to earlier. School is the most efficient delivery system for these services, which I really spoke about earlier. And studies show that students who participate in a comprehensive collaborative school-based mental health programs have significantly less discipline issues, enjoy better mental health, and not surprisingly, perform better in school. And I will elaborate on that last one. So here at RFS, we have a data and analytic team that reviews all these numbers on a yearly basis. What we have seen with our kids who are in our services is that our kids are being promoted from grade to grade. Our kids' discipline is decreasing. Are we fixing the problem? Are we vanishing it? Absolutely not. We are taking steps. We are building the foundation. We're bricklayers. And what we see is we take a kid who may have 4 Fs a quarter. He's making dramatic improvement each quarter and getting higher passing grades and getting more passing grades. We have kids who are getting suspended on a routine basis, who are now minimized or have reduced that to a point where it's not even an impediment upon his academic success. Last year, out of 106 seniors that we were serving here in Toledo Public Schools, we graduated 102. So now that doesn't mean that we're taking credit for the 102 that graduated, but we are very proud of that number because it's showing through the data that with conjunction of mental health services, partnering with the schools that we partner with and working together as a team, we're starting to see higher outcomes with that model. And we are very proud of that. We are really starting to see a really big payoff by, again, grades, promotion, decrease of behaviors, decrease of suspensions, higher academics, higher graduation rates. And the one thing that I'm really proud of being an ex-athlete myself, because I do believe that kids need to have something beyond mental health, because mental health cannot be successful as a standalone. I truly believe in that. It's something that we can work on, but getting kids involved with extracurricular activities, and that doesn't mean sports, it means getting them finding something that the kids have passion about. I think everybody can appreciate who's on this Zoom call today is that we all have found something that we love to do. And we all know that when we love to do something, our lives become a little easier, right? And at the end of the day, it's the same thing that we try to do with our kids. We want to expose them to diversity. A lot of our kids, and that goes for rural and urban, a lot of our kids never leave their area. They don't know. They've never been around diversity. They've never been around something different, so they don't know. So part of our job is to get them exposed, get them exposed to different things that they would not normally do, get them involved with athletics, band, art, whatever that passion is, because we have seen, again, better outcomes in conjunction with other community partners, in conjunction with mentorship, in conjunction with education, athletics, so forth. We have seen better outcomes with these kids. And all right, so that's really all I have. If you guys have questions, please ask me. But again, that's just a really quick rundown of what we do and a little bit of brief background about school-based mental health services.
Keary, thank you very much. We will open it up to the club membership to ask questions. Keary, thank you very much. We will open it up to the club membership to ask questions. So again, we'll ask if you've got a question for Keary, you can either raise your hand in the participant window, or you can type into the chat window that you've got a question, and we will come around and call on you. Give a minute for questions to come in. All right, question came in from Mari Davies asking, what are your funding sources?
So we actually have partnered with the managed care organizations in the state of Ohio. So we actually bill Medicaid and commercial insurance.
Excellent. All right, Lynette, I'm going to come to you with the next question. See if we can get camera and microphone on. Just way more fun that way, folks. Nobody wants to hear from me. All right, Lynette, you are up. Go ahead.
I just typed in I wondered if they work with charter schools also.
We do. We actually, charter schools here, we work with Hope Charter School, Maritime, and I think there's, I think that's the only two that we work with here in Toledo. So it's Maritime Academy and Hope Academy in Toledo.
All right, next question, we're going to Jack Hollister. Jack, you are up. Go ahead.
Keary, thanks for a great presentation. I was just curious, I heard you mention mentoring a little bit, but I wondered if you could expand on what you're doing with mentoring.
So great question, Jack. So the one thing, again, going back to what I said, is that I personally don't believe that mental health is a standalone service. I don't think that mental health is just going to be able to, that's just the word, cure a kid or an adult. So what we have done with RFS is that we have partnered, I don't want to do a partner, but with the schools, we have partnered with other community partners who actually specialize in mentorship, like the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA. So part of our program is when a kid comes in, we're giving these parents other options. Okay, not only will your child receive mental health services from us, but we'll reach out to the YMCA, we'll reach out to the Boys and Girls Club, the Friendly Center, Girl Scouts. We'll coordinate meetings with the local football coaches of the high schools or whatever sports he wants to play. So that's what we really believe in mentorship program, and all of us working together. Again, we just seen better outcomes.
All right, next question. You started to touch on it, but we're going to go to Kelly Trame. Kelly, you are up. Go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Keary. I really appreciate you being here. I do work for the Girl Scouts, so I'm thrilled to be able to hear what you have to say today, especially because at Girl Scouts, we're really exploring how our programs are helping youth combat with mental health, justice and fairness, and also mitigating learning loss. So I really wanted to perhaps explore a little bit more how our organizations can maybe work together to help more in this field, and maybe we can even have a side conversation later.
No, absolutely, Kelly, and I appreciate that, and that's huge for us. And I'll be honest with you, the one things that we, again, when we talk about diversity and exposing our kids, you know as well as I do that, you know, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, over the years, it seems to be like it's less and less. There's a huge need for that, like what you just talked about. So we think it's imperative to expose our urban populations to organizations such as that. Absolutely. But yes, my information, I believe someone has it. Just get my email. Definitely we can have a conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Excellent. All right. Judge Zuhairi, did I say you've got a question? All right. Yeah. See, this is the older guys in the club really like to make me work, and they physically raise their hand. All right.
You've done it. Yeah. You've given us the stats and a general background. Can you perhaps personalize with a story without disclosing a name of someone that especially sticks in your mind that your organization assisted along the way?
Oh, gee, Judge, there's so many, but there is one. So there's one that we started working with in the 6th grade. Horrible home life. Mom's education level went to, I believe, the 6th grade herself. This kid everything that you can possibly believe or imagine that could be wrong in someone's life, this kid fit the criteria. Dad's not his life, extremely growing up in poverty, always transient population, always moving around, homeless in the 8th grade, didn't have a place to live. Everything you can think of. And this young man stayed with it. He never quit. There were times that he had to transfer high school where he was actually walking 5 to 6 miles to school on a daily basis back and forth. Long story short, not only was he one of our clients, but he was also recognized by Dr. Durant and actually earned a scholarship to college. And again, that was, to me, that's the most vivid one, because that was a true partnership working with TPS educators and administrators in conjunction with mental health, how we were both able to work together to get this kid to be successful to where he's at. But it's a phenomenal story.
Thank you.
Awesome. Again, if you've got questions, we ask you to raise your hand in the participant tab. If you raise it on camera like this, I may or may not see it. So I got to credit the assist on that one, catching Judge Zahari. But if you got a question, again, you can either send me a message in the chat or just type the word question into the chat, and we'll call on you for yours. Keary, I've got a similar background. I worked in drug prevention throughout my career, and I'm just kind of curious, as you tell your journey, and this was certainly a personal question, but you opened up kind of your story. I'm curious what it was that had you, was there a moment or a person that had you kind of helped you kind of turn your life around, or say, hey, this is where I got to make a change?
Right. That's a great question. I get asked that question a lot, and I always tell people there was no epiphany. There was no, I woke up in the morning with some sunlight in my eyes and saw a vision. It was basically that I have literally burned all my bridges through my entire life, where I couldn't borrow another dollar. Nobody trusted me. Nobody wanted nothing to do with me. The pivotal day is that when I showed up at my mom's house, age 27, I had garbage bags of my clothes thrown in her backyard and me locked out the house. And I became homeless at that day, was when I started realizing that I needed to make changes. So unfortunately, I started to change my life because there was no other option for me. But then when I started changing it, I never looked back. And that's where I believe I worked many different odd jobs and factories and everything else. And like I said, when Mr. Salak reached out to me and said, hey, you can get into this line of work and you'd be effective at it. And I said, nah, really? So I did it. And I never looked back. It was just something that I love to do. And I love working with people to try to change their lives. I believe that, it's hard work. And I think that one of the biggest reasons that people struggle, and I always say this, quitting the drugs and the lifestyle was the easy part. Living every day, waking up on time, being responsible, paying bills, going through getting your driver's license, trying to, lift the warrants and all the stuff that comes with changing your life was the most difficult part of my life. And really, once that part was over, it was easy. And a lot of people just struggle with those parts, accountability, responsibility, and getting back to their life.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, Mari Davies has a question. Mari, I'm tossing it to you. At least I'm trying to. You want to unmute? You go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, I just wondered who mentored you. There must have been somebody out there who, when you were faced with your trash bags of clothes and being locked out, somebody must have extended a hand. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And the list is extensive. And I think the benefit that I've had throughout my entire life was athletics. So I had a lot of coaches and a lot of people in my life who showed me better, who have instilled better in me. But I had a couple individuals, Coach King, Rick Morris, who I met them through Narcotics Anonymous. I met a couple spiritual advisors that I still continue to have. My mother was a big support once I got over the fact that she kicked me out, and she was always in my corner, so that was a big support. And I was fortunate enough that, again, I was able to have that foundation built in me at an early age through athletics and coaches, that I really did know better. I really did know that there was a better life out there. It was just I chose the wrong option. So all those same people that, I don't want to say gave up on me, but they suspended their support for me, all came back into my life once I started changing, and I still have those people today. But there was a numerous of people that have stayed with me throughout my life.
Excellent. Keary, as you look, obviously, I mean, the last, 6-8 months, I always joke it's been the longest 8 years of my life. But when you look at kind of, it's hard to predict the future. But as you look ahead, what are some of the biggest challenges that your organization has coming up on the horizon?
Retention and growth. So we continue to grow at an astronomical rate. I'll be going this next week, Thursday, or actually this Thursday, down to Cyrus City Schools outside of Findlay. So we have a lot of agencies here in Toledo, and retention of employees, recruitment of employees is probably the most difficult part that we face right now. Obviously, we're in our current landscape with COVID. It's made a lot of things difficult, because what we do know is the mental health and addiction supports are not dwindling, they're actually rising. And like a lot of people, for a lot of good reasons, some people don't want to work at home. We lost a lot, or not work, or want to be at home for safety reasons, which we respect that. We also have a lot of parents. We lost a lot of good employees. I don't want to say a lot, but a decent amount, because they got to stay home with their kids because there's no school. So there's lots of different, right now, a lot of different barriers that we have in place today that we didn't have a year ago.
Excellent. Well, Keary, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to President Alex.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Keary, I have actually just one quick question. So how do you get the children involved in extracurricular activities, whether it be football, sports, band? I mean, how does that process look?
So when we get kids into services, when they first come in, we do a treatment plan, or a screening, more or less. And that's when we really try to get kids to figure out what they like to do, their passion. And then we really go with it and try to link that kid up to, something that he wants to do. The one thing I can tell you, Alex, is that we have never came across a kid that don't want to do nothing. Mm-hmm. And usually the barriers that prevents a kid from doing something is, especially when you're in high school, is if you're academically ineligible, you can't participate in athletics. So the first part is getting that kid eligible. And then usually once he's eligible, he's playing baseball, football, everything. He just gets totally involved. So really find those kids. And a lot of kids, unfortunately, don't play sports because, again, of the things that we take for granted. Mom don't have enough money to buy cleats. Mom doesn't have the $45, $50 for the registration. Mom doesn't have transportation to take the kid to practice 5 days a week. These are all things that we try to assist the family and the kid to get them involved. But like I said, some of the things that we take for granted, this is why kids don't get pushed in, and we really do our best to get them matched up.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome.
And also, Keary, thanks for a great presentation on our community's youth today. As our gift, we'll be sending you a well-known book in Toledo called Historical Tales of Toledo, authored by Rotary past President Clint Mock. We'll also make a donation to the Polio Plus Fund in your name. Thanks again for a great presentation. So next week's meeting, Monday, November 2nd, we have Christine Brennan, sports columnist, USA Today. Definitely looking forward to that meeting. Also, the following Monday, November 9th, there will not be a meeting in honor of Veterans Day on November 11th. And today we have 3 committee meetings, community service, membership engagement, and peace committee. Please stay on this meeting after our meeting is over, and you'll be directed to a breakout room. And now finally, to wrap up our meeting is Chuck's Chuckles. Chuck?
A man was walking home alone one night when he heard a bump, bump, bump behind him. Walking faster, he looked back and made out an image of an upright coffin banging its way down the street towards him. Bump, bump, bump. The man began to run faster towards his home, and the coffin bounced after him. Faster, bump, bump, bump. He ran to his door, fumbled with his keys, opened the door, rushed in, and locked it behind him. The coffin crashed through the door, bump, 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 on the heels of the terrified man. The man rushed upstairs to the bathroom and locked himself in, heart pounding. With a crash, the coffin broke down the door, coming towards him. The man, while screaming, reached up for something, anything he could find. On the counter was a box of cough drops, which he hurled at the coffin, and suddenly the coffin stops. Kevin, I'll explain that to you later. It's complicated.
All right. Well, that didn't go exactly the way I thought it would, but that was funny anyway. So,
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We're adjourned.
Breakout sessions offer the opportunity to network with members from around the world while learning new skill sets.
As Rotary, we have been static for so long, so this is an opportunity for us to vision again and look ahead.
Breakouts are a place to discover the latest ideas and strategies that drive Rotary. As you can see, convention is an excellent opportunity for development.
The new vision statement is something that I will try and introduce at club assembly in 2 weeks at our club, and we will definitely adopt that.
Another great place to share your ideas is the social media lounge in the House of Friendship. Stop by to participate in interactive quick chats with new friends or get personalized help for your social media channels to help tell your Rotary story.
At the Rotary International Convention in Taipei.